Hello everybody, David Broussard here. Today we're going to talk about personal collaboration, one of my personal favorite topics. Joke there. So what is personal collaboration? Well, personal collaboration is something that everybody does all the time. This is where we work with documents that are our documents that we're working on, and it's usually by ourselves or with a small group of people that varies constantly. A great example of this is, let's say that I am working on a report for a client, and I created in Word, right? And I'm working on this document, and I realize that I need somebody else to do part of this report for me. Now, I want to be able to work on this report from any place. So what's the natural place for me to store this document? In the old days, it would have been on my computer, right? But then, of course, if I put it on my computer, I can't let anybody else work on it. That's not necessarily a bad thing if I'm the only person working on it. I could store it on a network drive, right? Network drive works out okay. If I need to let other people work on it, I can send them the link and they can work on it. I could also email them the document, right? If I email them the document, the problem with doing that, of course, is they put their content and they send it back to me, and now I've got to merge all those changes back into one single document. That's a hassle. So what's another option that I've got? Well, I can store it in my OneDrive for Business. Now, what's the advantage of me storing it in my OneDrive for Business? Well, if I store it in my OneDrive for Business, first advantage we have is I can get to it from any place. So if I'm on my laptop, great. If I'm on my desktop at home, great. If I want to get to it from my phone, great. If I happen to be at a hotel and I get to a kiosk PC, I can still get to it, great. I can even edit it in the browser, which is useful. If I'm on a PC that isn't running Windows or it doesn't have Office installed, I can still get to it and work with it in Office Online. It also means that when I go to actually need somebody, one of my coworkers, let's say, to put in some data, instead of me sending them the file and asking them to work on it, what I do instead is I email them the link. I share the file with them using the sharing feature in OneDrive. What happens is they get a link to the document, they click on that link, they can then view or edit the document at that point in time. And at that point, they're editing it, and if I'm editing it, we can actually edit it simultaneously, and we're not stepping all over each other. That means I no longer have to merge changes back into one document. So that's a positive. I can also do that same kind of sharing outside of my organization. So I can do more than just sharing with my coworkers. I can also share that document with people who are not part of Catapult systems. And so that's a benefit as well. So now if I need to maybe get some information from the client, I can actually share the document with the client. They can actually go in and edit that document. They have the same features. They can edit it using their desktop system, or they can edit it in the browser, and they can get to it from their phone, from their PC, from their laptop, from pretty much any place. And of course, all of this is secured because I'm explicitly granting access to people, okay? So that's a lot about personal collaboration, and when we think about the productivity benefits that it brings to us, the real focus that we have here is how much time do people have to spend finding documents that they're working on, number one. Another big benefit we have is, in the old days when I had to send that document out to different people, how much time were they spending editing the document, and then was I spending merging all those changes back into the same document? So that's a big that's a big problem as well. And that's a big productivity increase. So we want people to save, and even if it's just 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there, across an entire organization of hundreds or thousands and tens of thousands of people, those little 5-minute savings really start to add up. And considering that the average worker costs a fair amount of money for a user, for an organization, if you can start saving 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 30 minutes of work per information worker in your organization per week, that actually really starts to add up to some real productivity increases that you can have inside your organization. So fundamentally, in the end, the advances we get with personal collaboration are really focused on increasing the individual productivity of our users. And we haven't even touched on the concept of the fact that I now have versioning on my documents, which means that if I inadvertently save over a document, which has happened, oh gosh, I can't tell you how many times I've opened up a status report, I've changed all the data inside of it, and instead of hitting File Save As and giving it the new period name, I've hit File Save and thus overwritten last week's status report or last period status report. On a file system like my laptop or a network share, I'm toast. I have to go back and find that document someplace, right? And if I'm being good and sending out the link to the document as opposed to the actual document, it could be just gone at that point in time. But OneDrive for Business turns on versioning, which means that even if I did that, I can go back to last week, I can go back to the prior version of that document, and I can restore it, and I can, in other words, save myself from a minor disaster, if you will. And so if we think about that, I have saved myself rework. I have not lost critical information inside the organization. So yet another productivity increase that comes out of personal collaboration. I hope you've enjoyed this section on driving personal collaboration, and we'll look for more in the future. Have a good one.